Hey guys, if you've done anything for me, please sign up for the Beat the Street Chicago virtual gala. It's taking place on Saturday, June 6th from 8 to 9 p.m. You can register by going to WrestlingChangeMyLife.com. Right on our homepage, you'll see the registration tab. Beat the Street Chicago virtual gala, Saturday, June 6th. Would mean the world to me if you'd attend this thing. Thank you. Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
I think wrestling changed all my life, for sure.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Wrestling Changed My Life. This is your host, Ryan Warner. My guest today is the great Sonny Abe. I say that because he was a 4-time All-American, 2-time finalist, Olympian for Japan, national champ for Penn State in 1996. Back when David Taylor and Zane Rutherford were still wet behind the ears, this guy was getting it done. Fan of the week goes to Will Marlowe, Falls Church, Virginia. Thank you so much for tuning in, Will. He runs a digital agency. So if you're in the Falls Church, Virginia area, give this guy a call if you need some agency work. That's it, folks. Let's give it up for Sonny Abe. Peace! Sonny Abe, welcome to the podcast, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Been looking forward to this one. I just want to start. Let's get right to the brass tacks of the matter. You grew up in Japan. How did you first get involved with wrestling over in the Japanese system?
Basically, a couple of my friends were wrestling, and they asked me to just come up to watch the tournament. And I think I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I didn't know anything about it. I just went there. Their coach just asked me, "Hey, why don't you wrestle too?" So I competed it. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even have wrestling shoes. I wrestled barefoot, and I did well. Actually, I won the tournament. That's how I started it.
And how similar is the Japanese system to the United States system? I mean, obviously it's freestyle, but do they have kids tournaments and just like we do here and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. Not that many tournaments like in U.S., especially PA. We didn't have tournament every weekend, but very similar. Big youth programs throughout the nation, and then it's getting smaller, middle school, high school, and then college wrestling it's not as popular as U.S. That's for sure. I think the college tournament, probably if you get a couple hundred people, spectators, it's probably lucky to have that.
So big difference compared to the NCAAs then.
Oh my God, yeah, it's huge difference.
And I know you had some battles with the Iowa guys and wrestled at Carver Hawkeye, so we'll talk about that. But talk about another place that has some great crowds.
Right.
So I understand your brother, was it Taro or Toro is your brother's name?
Taro.
He was the one who helped place you at Penn State. So how did you get to the point of, all right, you start wrestling at a young age, you have some success. When did you really start to love it, and how did you get from there to Penn State?
So I wrestled. So ever since I started at wrestling was my main sport, and I did participate in different sports like soccer, even basketball, which I wasn't good at it, obviously. Aikido, some martial arts, swimming, and but wrestling was always my main sport. And then I did good in high school, and then I was supposed to go to one of the colleges in Japan with a scholarship, but it didn't work out at last minute. And then Taro, my oldest brother, was going to RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology back then, and it just gave me an idea to come to U.S. and go to school and compete in wrestling. And then my dad and I went to this organization, which basically helped Japanese students go to foreign countries to get education. So we went there, and then they sent letters to I don't know how many colleges, but numerous colleges in U.S. And then few responded, and then one of them was Penn State. The coach Hachiro Oishi, back then he was an assistant coach at Penn State, and then he contacted me, and then my brother Taro went to meet him and checked out the campus, and then basically Taro said it's a great university, great staff, and so it just started everything from there.
Now I've heard rumors of this gentleman, Oishi, your assistant coach in college, that he was just like crazy tough, really just brutal in many ways, whether it was judo, whether it was wrestling. I mean, what was this guy like? And maybe just describe him for people who don't know who he was.
Right. Well, it's not a rumor. He was brutal. He basically, he was mentally tough, and then he made us do some crazy stuff, and then everybody thought he was joking around, but he wasn't joking. Then, once you get to know him, whatever he says, it just goes. So we just did whatever he says, and then that just, made us a mindset of being tough and mentally and physically.
And so was it just like how hard his workouts were, or was there something else going on there as well?
I think workout too, and then plus he does study wrestling. Back then, he watches VHS tapes all the time, and not only a mental and a physical aspect, but he was a great technician too. He always went over a technique with us. He always went to world championships. He filmed, came back. He always shared that the technique is going on in the world. Then he implemented that among the Penn State wrestlers, and so it was just everything from technique to conditioning. He just had everything.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like someone who you'd talk back to or give any attitude to back in the day.
Nah, not with him. No.
Now, before you decided to leave, I mean, was there an opportunity to be Japan's wrestler for the World Championship and Olympic teams? And if so, was there money in it back then, or did you pretty much have to go to the U.S. to further your career at that time?
Yeah, it's like so I had a scholarship to go to the college in Japan. Then it's one of those things. I was very disappointed, and then I did not want to get involved in Japanese wrestling at that time, and so I was looking for somewhere kind of new start for me, and then I don't know why, but it's probably young and dumb. I thought about let's go to the U.S. and we figure it out. So that's what happened.
When did you arrive in the U.S.? How old were you?
I was 19. Just graduate, actually 18, I think. Right after graduating from high school, and I just remember. I think I flew into either Chicago or New York, and then I got in this small plane. It's like you can't even stand out. It's how small it was. And then I just looked down. I grew up in Tokyo, and then I never seen it pitch dark. And I was sitting in a plane. That's when it hit me. Like I looked down. It was pitch dark. I could not see any light, which I never seen before. I'm like, wow, this is my new life. It's gonna come up for me. Then when I landed to State College, same thing. There's no street light. It was pitch dark. I never seen cows or pigs or any animals before. And that's it was a culture shock for me.
That's when it hit you that you're like, man, I'm nowhere near home, and I'm going to be here for quite a bit longer. Could you speak English at the time?
No.
I
could not speak any English. No. That's why just like I said, I was probably young and dumb, and just decided to do it. And but first time I saw Penn State home meet, that was against Iowa. I recall. That blew my mind. It was 10,000 people there, standing, upstairs, standing, people standing. Line was so long outside the rec hall. And that when I saw that match, I just decided myself I will wrestle there. This is gonna be my goal to wrestle there.
Now, we got to remember that you had never wrestled folk style top and bottom before either. What was that? Had you ever seen it before? And what was that change like learning that system?
I never seen collegiate style either. And it just, obviously, first couple of years, it was hard for me not to lock hands. Obviously, top and bottom wrestling was huge difference, compared to freestyle and Greco. So basically, the coach always he told me to do stand up against the wall 50 times after every practice. So I remember after I left it, I was walking away the whole way. Coach is like, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm gonna go shower and go class." He's like, "Did you do your stand up yet?" I'm like, I thought just after wrestling practice. Like, no, practice means every practice. So whatever we had to practice, conditioning, lifting, wrestling, he made me do 50, basically 100 stand-ups, 50 both sides against the wall. And then the last point I scored, my senior year at nationals, I escaped from the bottom to win national championship. So I guess it was worth it.
Wow, that's crazy. I was trying to find footage of your matches. I could not find them online. But it's like, man,
right.
What a turnaround it was. So, like, many people would get here and, they might be scared and they might decide to turn back. Did you ever have any self-doubt of thinking, man, I need to go home?
No, I only had a one-way ticket. So that never came to my mind. And then, always and I never talk about that, to going back, and there was no that choice. I just knew I wanted to stay. I wanted to achieve the goals I set. So that never crossed my mind.
You were totally in at that point. And how was when you got here, how was your takedown game? Were you going even with like guys like Jeff Prescott, or was there some learning to do there?
Yes, obviously takedown was on the feet. I was able to compete with those guys, Prescott, and Jimmy Martin just graduated, and then I was able to work out with him too. And there's Sean Nelson, there's a bunch of lighter weight classes in the room. So that gave me confidence as far as on the feet wise, and then obviously top and bottom. The coach Fritz, he became my head coach my wrestler freshman year, and Coach Lorenzo, obviously, they helped me out on the mat wrestling.
Well, plus Jimmy Martin was a known leg rider. He had to be really tough on top if he was still hanging around.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he was very tough on top.
So how did you...
And the Prescott.
Go ahead.
Jeff Prescott. Yeah, Prescott was really tough on top, too. Another good leg rider, too.
Yeah, there's a... I mean, he was in there with some of those great matches with the Brands and, Caliber, and those are just some great... That's a great era for lightweight wrestlers. Kendall Cross was in there. I know you wrestled him in the Olympics, so you came into it. And Penn State at the time, obviously they're really good now, but they were good back then, too.
Oh, yeah. Every tournament I went to, it was so many tough guys around that weight class.
So I want to pause on the wrestling for a second and just learn,
Sure.
How the heck did you learn how to speak English in 2 years? Because I just can't even fathom that.
Well, so there is I believe still there is, basically it's called Intensive English Communication Program, IECP at Penn State. So all the foreign students went through this program, and basically it's from 9 to 3 o'clock. We just learn English every day. So I went to class that too, and then also my middle brother Jiro, Jiro, that's how we spell Jiro. He was a musician, so he was feeding me different kind of music. And one of them, the music album he recommended me was Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. So I just listened the whole album. And then I memorized all the basic lyrics, entire album to to study and to be able to speak and understand the language. So that obviously helped me out too.
So it was just day in and day out, and then I did hear the story about the Guns N' Roses album, but I mean that had to be a really intensive course. For how long did you do that for?
2 years. I did that for 2 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because at the end of the 2 years, the head of the program basically told me, "Hey, I never see anybody went through 2 years, so you graduate. You're going to Penn State now." So that was very relieved after that.
So were you enrolled at Penn State in wrestling, or just training on the side at that point, doing the class?
I couldn't enroll the regular classes until after 2 years. I had to score some. It's called TOEFL, the language test for foreign students, and finally I passed that test, and I was able to enroll. So I was just working out on the side with the guys on the team until then.
And at what point, when you were at Penn State, did Cary Kolat roll into town?
That was my freshman year, freshman year. He came in.
I mean, he's obviously one of the great American wrestlers of all time, but he was known for his workouts, and you guys were workout partners. Did you go with him right away, or did it take some time for you two to get warmed up to one another?
No, we went off right away, and we hit it off, and then ever since we start, first time we worked out, we knew each other. I knew that that's somebody I need to train with every day. So it was pretty smooth, I think, transition to be able to train him ever since he got to Penn State.
And what do you think was different about him versus some of the Penn State greats? Like we said, you worked out with Jimmy Martin, Prescott, but what was unique about Kolat that you noticed from working out with him?
Obviously, his ability to to perform on at the competition, but more so, I guess we pretty much talk about wrestling all the time, and we watch film together. We not necessarily I don't think we went live every day, but we always drill together and try to perfect the technique. Something we believe we can use some new technique. We just drill over and over, and then it really doesn't matter. It didn't matter what time of the day or when of the season. When we decide to work out, we knew each other. That somebody we can count on each other to work out.
Yeah, and I've heard it didn't matter what, like you said, it was midnight, 1 a.m, you guys would be there. Do you remember what some of those workouts were like? So if you guys got in there for a 20-minute go, 30-minute go, what would you guys do that was so unique based on what you've seen?
I guess, the back then, I think it was pretty, I don't think it was normal we set up some scenario, like let's say, one guy's losing by 2 points, let's go 30-second goals, a minute to go. And that was kind of unique. I think back then, like I somehow we came up that idea. I don't think we did that during the practice either as a team. But then we, like I said, we always drill. Sometimes like no lie, we just drill for like hour and a half. And then that was actually harder than going live.
Of course.
Sometimes you can cruise, when you go live, but that drill, you can't lie to yourself. You got to keep going. So that's something, I was able to do that with him.
And would you say that those, like, there's a difference in the way that Americans and the Japanese national team trains?
Oh, absolutely. So basically, Japanese training system is, I'd say, they set the time. Let's say practice 2 hours. It's got to be 2 hours. No matter what. If it's like 3 hours, it's normal. It's not like, okay, we did enough today, let's cut it in an hour. There's none of that. It's got to be always set the time, and then pretty much a lot of live wrestling, not that much technique session, which is probably good for conditioning-wise, wrestling conditioning-wise. But that was a huge difference between the way Japanese train opposed to U.S. At the Penn State, at least. We did spend time in technique and drill more than going live all the time.
Really? So you would almost think that the opposite based on what you hear about, the U.S. wrestlers and kind of what people think abroad is that they go really hard but maybe don't have the best technique. But you're saying that you guys did more technique than you did back in Japan even.
Yeah, so that's something I had to adjust every time I went back to Japan for national teams camp and stuff. It was a little bit different. I mean, not little, but it was a huge difference between the way I got used to train at Penn State opposed to Japanese training camp.
And would you go back and forth a lot during your time at Penn State to Japan?
I think first time I went back, I think since I came over here was, I believe it's the end of a sophomore year, I think. And then I went to training camp. So ever since I made the world team in '95, that's when I had to go back and forth, especially my senior year when I made Olympic teams. That year, during the season, I had to go to Europe for some tournament, or the Christmas break, I had to go back to Japan for the training camp or the Olympic team trials and stuff like that. So, yeah, from my junior and senior year, I did travel a lot.
Man, that had to be tough. And, I mean, you're also juggling multiple languages. You're juggling different styles. And so you kind of have all this going on in the background. And one thing that people have said about you is your ability to just block everything out was unparalleled. When you were doing it at the time, did you know that you were unique doing that, or you just thought that's how everyone did it?
I really didn't think about that, but I think looking back now, I think I was so focused to what I needed to do to achieve my goals. So I really didn't think about. I mean, it was hard, but I just took it as that's something I just have to do. It's just like eating breakfast or dinner. That's something I have to do.
So every morning when you woke up, you were just laser focused in on that goal of winning a national title.
Yeah, I wanted to do that, and obviously I wanted to win Olympics and beyond the college too.
Would you ever visualize or think about the matches or think about wrestling outside of the practices, or once you were done with the workout, you would turn it off?
I don't think I think about it every day back then, but I think during the season, I think I thought about a lot of, I guess, wrestling all the time. Even, when I was running or doing lifting, I always thought about my opponent, what they're doing. He's running right by me. I got to beat him. I wouldn't say every day, but I thought about that a lot, for sure.
It's just awesome to hear that no matter what country you're from or where you were raised, great athletes all have that thing in common, is that they are constantly visualizing and making things up in their head to push them to go harder.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you.
So one of the periods of your life that I find most fascinating is your junior year nationals, where you get second, all the way through to your senior year. Because going into nationals your junior year, you won the Big Tens. Did you beat McGinnis at the Big Tens?
My junior, no, he actually forfeited. I think he hurt his ankle during the season, so he just forfeited at the finals. So I didn't get to wrestle him my senior year.
I'm sorry, your junior year. Did you wrestle him at all your junior year?
I'm sorry, junior year, he beat me at the Big Ten title. Junior year, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then I lost to him in finals as well.
Man, and so from what I can see, again, I couldn't find the match, but it looked like it was a 1-point match. Is that right?
Yeah. He basically, I could not just get off from the bottom. He was real good on top, and then he was just a better wrestler when we wrestled Big Ten and nationals.
And how long after that did it take for you to kind of refocus your goals and get back going again?
Well, I think right after that, I tried to practice, but coaches kicked me out from the room when we got back from the nationals, actually. And then, but I think I snuck in somehow in the wrestling room. Then I worked out, but and then after that, I had the freestyle season came up right away, because Japan usually have a national tournament. It's like a U.S. Open, just like up here, I guess, in April, May. So, I just didn't have time to, sorry for myself, so I just started training right away.
So you tried to get back in right away from the nationals, and the coaches said, take a break, man.
Right. Just take, a week off or something. But, I didn't want to take any days off.
God, you were just so possessed. And then, obviously, your senior year, you undefeated national champ. One of the rare things to see in college wrestling. What I thought was kind of interesting is that once you won, you said it was a relief, which isn't all that common. Some people say it's a great moment. Some people say it's just a relief. Do you still feel that way, that it was a relief to win, or looking back now, do you have a different take on it?
I think I was relieved. That's something I always wanted to do. Then, especially the way I did it. It was, I took fourth, third, second, previous 3 years, and then my senior year, obviously. But after I won, I was happy, but the relief was the worst. I still think that's how I felt.
And did you have much time between that and the Asian Games? Because I know the Asian Games in '96, it wasn't your best tournament, but that you still were able to compete hard enough to qualify for the Olympics. How close to the Nationals was that? It seemed like it was right after it.
It was right after. I think I only had a few days. I don't think it was even a week. And I had to leave right after Nationals, and then I went to Japan, the training camp. Then I went to Asian Championships right away, right after that.
And when did Sergey start working with you, and when was he the coach for the Japanese team?
I think he was. I think it's from '95, I believe. He started coaching the national team, and he was very unique, totally different with compared to the coach OEC, especially, or Penn State coaching staff. So he would. I mean, obviously he was a great technician. The top, bottom. The feet, throws, everything. But he was able to teach different styles. Depends on how you wrestle, and that he helped me out a lot with strategies and different setups, and obviously then front headlock and stuff too. But yeah, he was one of the greatest coaches that I ever seen.
Yeah, he's a big move kind of guy too. He loves the throws, loves the big moves.
Yeah, when he competed, but when he was coaching, he knows different kind of little tricks, and which that's why I was surprised. I thought he was big move guy. I thought, but he wasn't. He knew obviously pretty much everything, different aspects of the wrestling.
Interesting. Yeah, and so I'm kind of with you. I would have thought maybe the opposite. Obviously, he's got the front headlock. Obviously, his top game is insane. I've heard he's one of the strongest people on top that you'll ever feel.
Oh, yeah, he was. It's kind of like a Gable, Sergey couldn't go on his feet because he had a hip surgery, replacement surgery, when he started coaching for Japan. But he was top on top. He was crazy strong.
Did you ever? I was going to ask you, and you brought it up. Did you ever have a chance to work out with Coach Gable, or did you ever train on a team where he was the coach?
I never get to work out with him. But everybody I talked to, they told me, obviously when he was younger, when he was able to wrestle on the feet with the Iowa wrestlers, he just killed everybody. Then he still, when he get on top of somebody, he would just torture everybody. That's what I heard.
Well, plus when you were there, Iowa was the enemy. I mean, in 93, I know you were on the team in 93, but I mean 93. When they pulled McAravey out of redshirt, everyone thought that Penn State was going to win, and Iowa was kind of a comeback for them to win that year. Obviously, it was a three-peat, but I mean they had lost the Brains brothers, and they pulled McAravey out of redshirt. So I mean, Gable was the enemy. What was it like to compete at Carver Hawkeye back in those days?
Well, that whoever wrestled in that arena. Everybody knows that's the snake pit. Everything is on the bottom, and it was a very hard environment to wrestle for sure. But I think 93 was my
freshman year.
And then I believe my sophomore year, we had a good team. And we really believed we could win Big Ten and Nationals. And then Brinzer transferred in that year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, during the season, he wasn't able to compete because of, he just transferred in. But we heard the rumor that he's going to be able to wrestle a Big Ten. And then, back then there's no social media, or I don't think the internet wasn't that. But somehow, some way, like, we heard that, and then, some of us said there's no way he's going to be able to wrestle. And then when we got to Big Ten, it was at the weigh-in, and then we're like, damn, that's going to be hard for us to win Big Ten and national, because that changed whole scenario at that weight class too. And we just said, that's Gabriel's magic. He somehow pulled that one out again. And then, ironically, the Brinza went to North Allegheny High School. That's where I coach now. So it's kind of funny that
full circle.
He basically, because of him, we could win Big Ten or nationals.
So that was a bigger surprise than when they pulled McElravy out of redshirt and moved Troy Steiner down?
Yeah, they shift all the weight classes too. But that was, I think, for us, that my sophomore year, that was probably the biggest, probably bigger surprise for us. That especially brings a wrestler from North Allegheny, and he's from PA. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of, I think that was a bigger surprise for us.
What do you think? And I know you're. Excuse me. I know you're a high school coach, but you've coached some great athletes: Nico Megaludis, Vincenzo Joseph. Before we get to that, what do you think is unique about the Cale Sanderson-led Penn State teams, and what you've heard, what you've seen in terms of how they've been able to replicate success year in and year out?
I think he changed whole the idea of I think college wrestling. Like when I competed at Iowa, excuse me, obviously the grind, and that they just beat everybody by conditioning, and but Penn State, they start using let's have fun. There's no fun in the wrestling that everybody saw before they start winning. And obviously, when you win, it becomes fun with everything. But the wrestlers, they were able to recruit all the blue chippers. Once Cale started coaching, because I think before he got to Penn State, I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of top-notch PA high school wrestlers kind of spread out, went to Iowa, Oklahoma State, Nebraska, Penn State, and then some smaller school, Lock Haven, Edinburgh. But now, most blue chipper from PA want to go to Penn State now. So he just changed whole recruiting map, and it was way different compared to when I wrestled.
I mean, you talk about that, and I think you're exactly right, but it's no one would have described wrestling as fun in the early 90s, whereas now everyone talks about Cale's having that philosophy. I mean, but deep down, we know they're still going really, really hard, but there's got to be something different about it. I don't know what the hell it is, but man, it is interesting to watch that from afar.
Oh, absolutely. It just, they just, Cale just changed the whole idea of the college wrestling, I believe.
No doubt about it. I mean, and like I said, you had coached Nico Megaludis and Vincenzo Joseph. Cenzo, hopefully he gets another year, but he is one of the most exciting guys to watch wrestle. What was he like back in high school? He just he loved to compete, and then he loved wrestling, and I've known him since he was probably 8 years old. And one thing that up to junior year, he could not beat I would say the top, somebody better than him, and that changed when he won states junior year. When he beat Michael Kemmer from Franklin Regional, after that match,
he just went to next step, next level. He got a confidence. He believed in himself. Finally, he knew he can beat anybody. And then senior year, it was so easy to coach him. Just I sat on the corner, then I didn't have to say anything. So I think that match against the Camera, it really made a huge difference for his career.
I didn't know they wrestled. Was it a tight match?
It was overtime state final.
Oh my God! Had to be going crazy in there, huh?
Yeah, and it was the crazy ending too. I think he somehow kind of threw him and he pinned him in overtime.
And a match like that can take you to new levels. That is the most interesting thing about wrestling to me is, a guy wins a match, he's no different than the guy he was 7 minutes before that match, but for the rest of his life, he is different because of a win and the belief you have in yourself. It's like if you it's so crazy though. Like how can you not just teach that? It has to be learned through experience, unfortunately. Not all the time, but most of the time.
Most of the time, luckily, he was able to do that. Not that many wrestlers can do that. I mean, I'm sure you've seen some wrestlers. That if they win tight match, he's gonna get the next level. But sometimes you just you can't do it and end your career. But obviously, Chenzo did that in high school. And it just got to him next level.
Did you ever have a match like that took you to a next level that you can remember?
I don't think anything like that dramatic, that much make it somebody, get to the next level. No, personally, I don't think I did.
It was just a continual process over time for you.
Yeah.
So what are you doing these days? You're the head coach at North Allegheny still?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just finished my 5th season with the NA, and before that, I was coaching Central Catholic for several years actually. And during the day, I worked for the Power Tool company. It's a Milwaukee tool. The good friend of mine, Joe Galley, was able to hire me for his company, and that's I got to meet him when I was doing the club wrestling. It's called People Wrestling. Joe actually brought his son Peter to my weekend camps, and then that's how I got to know him. He's actually from Pittsburgh too. So, we hit it off, and then ever since we always talk, and then, so that's, I work for him right now during the day.
Yeah, he went to UNC, one of those guys that came up with Bill Lamb, and there's a lot of guys in that era. Rob Cole came through that system.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many connections in wrestling. It's crazy, and you certainly see that. Are you still doing the kids club as well?
No, that's not my real focus. But North Allegheny is such a big school district, so I do help our youth program as well. So I can hands-on these young guys, from the elementary level to the high school. So so I don't have to teach them different or new stuff when they got to high school. It's kind of same system, and I get to know them, then they get to know me. So we do have club practice, but that's not my prime focus anymore.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, you've been in the PA system for a long time, and obviously that's the top state in the United States for wrestling at the high school and youth level. But you're unique in the sense that you got to to come up in another system in Japan. So now that you've been here for a while and you've seen a lot, how do you think, or what do you think is the ideal way to raise a wrestler? Is it more competitions? Is it more practice? Do you think we have it right here? Do you think we should dial it back? Like, what do you think, just kind of looking back on your 20, 30 years or so of wrestling here?
I think once you get to a certain age, let's say the kids start wrestling 8 years old, you get to 10 or 11, I don't think they need to compete every weekend. I think they should focus on the training and learning technique more than competing, because when you decide to wrestle throughout high school and college, you're gonna compete anyway. So that's I try to tell the parents, hey, you don't have to take the kids to the tournament every single weekend. You just pick and choose. And then another thing is, I tell the parents not to cut these guys, cut a lot of weight, because I've seen so many kids burned out from cutting weight and competing too much, throughout their high school. And then it can't really do anything when they get to college. I've seen so many examples. So those are main things besides technique was, but I tell parents, don't let them compete too much, and don't let them cut weight too much.
Were you cutting a lot of weight back in your college days?
I think I was average. I probably went in practice anywhere between, I'd say 38, 42, and I wrestled 126. So, I think I was average.
Wow, that was average back then. Wow.
I think so, because especially tournament, we weigh in night before, and the dual meet probably like 8 hours before. Like, let's say 7, 8 o'clock dual meet, we were able to weigh in 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Man, it's come a long way in that era. A lot of those guys from the 80s and 90s talk about crazy weight cutting, and it seems to be dialed back quite a bit now.
Yeah, it's probably better for, I think, the body too. Then especially, freestyle changed. Well, freestyle back then was actually day of weigh-ins. I think when I was in high school, we had to weigh in the morning, and then it changed to the night before. So it's probably healthier for our bodies to weigh in the day of, I believe.
Definitely. I mean, healthier in the sense that it makes people cut less weight. I mean, I'm sure weighing in the night before would be better, but then people would be cutting a bunch of weight again. So yeah, I'm all about taking weight cutting out if possible.
Right. I agree.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you about, and we ask everyone, is how, the name of this podcast is Wrestling Changed My Life. And so we always ask, how did wrestling change your life? Or what lessons or what kind of values do you have from the sport that you take with you even to this day?
Obviously, it changed my life because I came here. That's for sure. Without wrestling, I wouldn't be here for sure. And then it gave me so many different opportunities. Not only on the mat, off the mat as well. Obviously, I'm able to speak English now, and then that met so many the great people through wrestling, and it just like Joe, he helped me out to get me a job for his company, and I without wrestling, I don't have any of my friends, the close friends I have right now. And then just the way, I guess I look at some of the problem or issues. It's it's not that hard. You know, I went through what I went through. I know I can go through anything. So it just, I think wrestling changed all my life, for sure.
I mean, the relationships are a big one, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's something, you know, you if somebody can't give you, you know, you got to build that to have a great relationship with other people.
Absolutely. Well, sir, it's been an honor to have you on the show. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, and luckily we were able to get connected here. So I appreciate you taking some time and really look forward to being friends with you for many years to come, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it.
And all great things must come to an end. If you want to hear more from the podcast, text WRESTLE to 555-888. That's WRESTLE to 555-888. You can also find us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, as well as our website, WrestlingChangedMyLife.com. Take care, y'all. Calm. 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 Take care, y'all.